In the angle between the east and midday is the Alcázar, the palace of their ancient kings, built within the walls of the city, square and close to a famous city wall. According to the latest studies, the origin of the building goes back to the end of the 10th century, the summit of the Caliphate period, when the chiefs of Sarish, Islamic for Jerez or Sherry, decided to raise a defensive building in one of the highest points of the town. The function of the building was twofold. On the one hand, it would serve as the headquarters of the troops, and on the other, it would be the residence of the rulers. The secluded position and the fact that a thick wall separated the Alcázar from the native population reveals that there was some concern about what could come from the narrow streets of the Medina. The majority of the precincts we see today were built between the 12th and 13th centuries, during the Almohad domination. Although the original fabric of the buildings has been much altered over the centuries, there still remains a good part of construction from that time, and they speak of a glorious past. Still with us is the Royal Pavilion, which is of the purest Spanish Moorish architectural tradition. Beautiful baths worthy of a palace, or the octagonal tower, a magnificent vantage point from which to watch the nearby fields. In 1248, Fernando III annexed Seville to the Crown of Castile, reaching an agreement with nearby towns, including Jerez, to allow Muslims to continue living in them under the Castilian government. But problems soon appeared, and in 1262 there was a general revolt in Andalusia, with tragic consequences for Christians who then occupied the fortress. These are years of blood and conflagration, in which the Alcázar was assaulted and set on fire, but miraculously, the image of Santa Maria was saved from the flames. In the middle of the 13th century, the Kingdom of Castile definitively conquered Jerez, and it became part of the Christian dominions. For decades, the Alcázar remained the headquarters of a city located on the very border with the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada, and suffered numerous sieges and attacks, and at the end of the 15th century became embroiled in the struggles faced by the Andalusian nobility, headed by two sides, the Ponce family of Leon and the Guzman family. In 1471, Don Rodrigo Ponce de Leon took the city, strengthening his position in the Alcázar. And thus we arrive at the 16th century, a dark age of neglect and alterations. The headquarters were transferred to another location, and the inside of the enclosure was used as farmland. Fortunately, this situation began to change in the mid-17th century. In 1664, the title of Warden of the Alcázar was awarded by Felipe IV to Lorenzo Fernández de Villavicencio. This family, one of the most powerful and noblest of the city, committed itself throughout the 18th century to restoring the fortress to its former glory, building a sumptuous palace and reforming the gardens, which became an opera theatre. The Alcázar was in the hands of the Villavicencios until 1926, when it became the property of the Diez family, one of the city's winemaking families who, aware of the importance of this monument, a year later commissioned the architect Teodoro Anasagasti to instigate a study of its state of conservation, in order to take some action to halt the disintegration of some of its parts. It was also in these years, specifically on the 4th of June 1931, when it was declared an edifice of cultural interest by the government of the Republic. Some decades later, in the 70s of the last century, and at the request of the General Directorate of Fine Arts, there began the first scientific restorations, directed by the architect José Menéndez Pidal. Nowadays, the Alcázar is owned by the city of Jerez, which since 1996 has been making a series of restorations and initiatives aimed at completely restoring the monument, one of the most visited of the city.